Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
Hello. Thanks for joining us on Mission Evolution. We're coming to you on X-Zone TV and Simul-TV from our broadcast studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, bringing the latest evolutionary information from today's leading experts. This hour will explore embracing abundance through radical life change. Abundance, success, and financial freedom have long been hot topics. Gimmicks and gurus abound on the subject. But what if achieving abundance is not so much about the latest tactic, but re-examining our beliefs and approach to life? With us this hour to discuss his take on abundance and life challenge is Derek Rydall. Derek is the author of Emergence, 7 Steps for Radical Life Change, and The Abundance Project. His diverse background includes training top executives at Fortune 500 companies, including American Express and the Walt Disney Company, in empowered leadership and communications. He coaches celebrities and media professionals in creating conscious entertainment. His website, DerekRydall.com. Derek, thanks for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Oh, thank you. It's my honor and pleasure to be here.
I think this is a really important topic, so thank you again for being with us on it. So, Derek, let's start with what's your educational background?
Well, I went to college, went to school, but my real education has been in the journey of challenges and crises and, living through the ups and downs of life and having to really discover my own path, the school of hard knocks, as they might call it. But I've also studied with many, teachers and been an avid student of the success literature and the transformational literature throughout all of history. Student of religion, etc.
So the School of Hard Knocks being the master's degree, right?
Exactly. I still have not finished my thesis in that school. It's an ongoing project. So
I hear you there. So how did you first become interested in spiritual principles and abundance?
I think I always had an interest in it, but really what happened is I had a near-death experience.
Really?
I was doing a film. I mean, like so many people, I struggled to improve my life for many years, self-improvement, law of attraction, all that. And after many years of self-improvement, the only thing I'd improved was my ability to describe why my life was so messed up. So I got really good at that. And the self-improvement journey was so frustrating to me. It actually eventually drove me to become addicted to drugs and alcohol. And I almost died of an overdose. And that, clearly wasn't enough to shake me out of that particular path. I just figured I needed to work harder, work smarter, attract better, something. And I was an actor, I ended up getting a job starring in a movie. And I was in Jamaica making the movie. And everything started falling apart again. And I ended up going diving in a coral reef. And I prayed to just get lost from everything above. And so that was my first problem. Be careful what you pray for. And the second thing was I went diving alone, and I did get lost, and I got stuck and trapped in the coral reef in what looked like an underwater booby-trapped tomb in Indiana Jones or something. And without going into the whole story, I basically thought nobody knew I was there, and I was going to drown. And in a moment of realizing I'm not going to make it, I had a moment of complete surrender to my idea of a higher power. And there was a flash of light. And I saw that this guy I'd been trying to fix, change, heal, and improve was a figment of my imagination. It was an amalgamation of parental fantasies and peer pressure and societal conditionings. And nothing I would ever do would make him enough. But I saw that simultaneously there was another self that had never been hurt, and so he didn't need to be fixed or improved. And he was already whole, and so he could not be improved upon. And it was just a flash. But in the next moment, I was standing outside of the coral reef on top of the one area of coral that was available to stand on. And I saw that the exit was just inches behind me the whole time, and I was able to swim out. But something radically shifted in me. Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, and I ended up joining a monastery and trying to become a monk. That did not turn out very well. After a week of fasting and silence, I pretty much ran screaming out of there. But basically, that was what started my in-depth spirit. Something had opened up in me. I had really seen something. I didn't understand it, and I ended up cloistering myself in my apartment for the next couple of years and going on this deep inner journey where I eventually discovered what I came to call the law of emergence. And we can talk about that, of course, but that was really what cracked me open and gave me that spiritual experience that kind of directed the rest of my life.
So, where would you say your information comes from um, that you write about now?
Yeah, it's a variety of things. Certainly, like I said, I've been a student of truly many religions, philosophy, the success literature of throughout all time, practically, from Plato to Aristotle to, all the way up to the present day. So I've been a deep student. And then also, as a coach and a teacher to now hundreds of thousands of people, I'm a constant student every time I'm teaching, every time I'm coaching, because you begin to see the recurring patterns. You begin to see that life is not really personal, it's a pattern. There's all these patterns going on. So I've been a student of people and of life. And then I also get my information directly. When I'm teaching, when I'm coaching, a channel opens up, and it can at times seem like I'm being a psychic. I don't call myself that, but I can know things about people, many things about people. I can know about their whole life. I can see the patterns. I can understand what's going on very fast. So a lot of information flows through. A lot of times it's things I've never heard or said before. And so I'm both a teacher of an inner guide, or a student rather of an inner guide, and also constantly learning from outer resources as well.
Okay, great. So
Yeah.
let's define abundance as we'll be speaking of it today.
Sure. And just really quickly, since we mentioned the law of emergence, I think it's an important principle to kind of lay the foundation, because it is the foundation of everything I talk about. It's not a new idea. I didn't make it up. It's what all the great spiritual masters have taught. But essentially, what I discovered was, just as the oak tree is already inside the acorn doesn't have to go out and get an oak or achieve an oak or attract an oak or improve itself into an oak. The oak is already there in the pattern of the seed, and it's already there in the field or the quantum field of that seed. And rather than achieving and attracting and improving itself, the acorn surrenders to the soil. And when the conditions are congruent for that pattern within the seed, then the oak naturally emerges. And so I saw that all of life is emergent, that there's a pattern in every seed, including the seed of us, including the seed of a business, a family, a relationship. And instead of us trying to make it happen, we have to learn how to make it welcome. We have to learn how to create the conditions. And, radio is a good example. Right now, our favorite music is playing right where you are. But unless you tune into the frequency where that music is playing, it's as if it doesn't exist. But as soon as you are a match for that frequency, meaning you are that frequency, or the radio is, that music becomes manifest, or that station becomes manifest. You have a manifestation, right? Now, that music was already playing. You just had to become in tune with it. So that's the first thing, is to understand that abundance and manifestation is not about making something happen that doesn't already exist. It's not even about drawing something to you. It's about understanding it's already here right now, just like that music, just like that oak tree, just like one master Jesus said, heaven is already at hand, but you can't see it because you're using your eyes. And so that's the key thing, is to understand that it's here now, and we first have to come in alignment with it. And then
So
real quick, yeah,
is
go
it
ahead.
is it a point of resonating with what's already there, resonating with the true nature of who you are, resonating with the nature of life, so that you're in the flow?
Yeah, that's part of it. It's like, for example, if I had abundance, or whoever's watching or listening right now, if you already had what it is you want, the wealth, the home, the health, whatever the abundance is for you, who would you be? How would you feel? What would be your habits of thinking, feeling, being, and doing if you already had it? And this can sound like law of attraction, but it's not, because you're not trying to attract anything. But you ask, if I already had it, how would I feel? Who would I be? And as you start to, whether using visualization or affirmation or meditation, start to come into agreement and alignment with that. And you could say resonate. Ultimately, there is a resonance, abundance. That person, that which you think is your future self, is actually here right now. And it has a resonance. And so what I teach is how to come into resonance with that, or like you use that word, or I call it how to come into integrity with it. But that's only the beginning, because one of the keys of law of emergence is whatever, because we already have it all, whatever is missing is what we're not giving. And so that means
Okay.
that
We're going to, that's a deep topic that we're going to have to get into on another side of a break. But it sounds to me like you're saying that fake it till you make it has a lot of validity in this case.
there's absolutely, act as if is one of the principles of the emergence or emergenering process.
So does that acting as if create openness to a resonance with what you want?
It can, I say that that actions are like affirmations in work clothes. That when it's not about acting as if to make it happen, but it is about acting as if to open up the channel of where you already are. The action is another form of alignment. As it says, faith without works is dead. So if you believe it, but you don't act like it, then you don't believe it. So our actions are our truest belief, our truest religion.
Yeah, just sitting around contemplating it isn't going to reap very many rewards, is it?
No, it's a good start. It's better than contemplating what's missing, because if you focus on what's missing, if you focus
That's
on
what we
what's not
create.
there, then that's what you're going to have more of, right? You're going
Right.
to, where energy flows where attention goes. So definitely turning your focus, the only thing we really have control over ultimately is our attention. And so and we know from quantum physics, or maybe you don't know, but there's the observer effect that in the quantum field, there's an infinite superpositionality, meaning it's everything and nothing all at the same time.
Well, we're going to have to visit the quantum field on the other side of a station break. Derek and I will return very shortly, so don't go away. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Hello again. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us this hour discussing life change is Derek Rydall. His website, derekrydall.com. Derek, we were just getting into quantum physics as it relates to emergence and abundance. So, quantum physics is battered around quite a bit. What
Mhm.
aspect of quantum physics are we talking about here?
Yeah, well, just the idea that in the field, or in the quantum field, there is there's not atoms and waves in the way that we think of it in Newtonian physics. There's potential, right? And so it is you can't really say the atom is in a superposition, but the potential is in a superposition. Schrodinger's cat is an example, if anybody's ever heard of that one. The cat is both alive and dead in the box. It depends on who opens it and what you're looking for, and all that. And so it's both nothing and everything at the same time. But our attention or intention, or in science they'll say observation or measurement, collapses that superposition into a particle of experience, of creation of some kind.
So
So
it's on the edge of creation. It's neutral until it's acted upon by
until it's observed, I wouldn't say it's neutral in the sense that I believe there is something there. I believe
right.
there are patterns there, as Plato said, there's the realm of perfect forms. There are platonic ideas, there are perfect patterns, and when the condition is congruent with that pattern emerges as a manifestation of possibility. And our attention, our conscious observation, intention, desire, etc., is all part of the alchemy that creates the condition that allows for that potential to emerge.
So we started out by you pointed out so nicely, that for the most part, we're trying to fix something that's not broken rather than uncover what is right. if indeed our mindset is constantly one of lack, we don't have what we need, whether it's in abundance or in just self worth,
Yeah.
then is that what we're creating at the quantum field?
Yeah, I mean, we're not, we actually aren't like, this is another, there's a lot we could go, there's a lot of rabbit holes. I can see a lot of streams here. We cannot actually create reality. Reality is what it is. 2 + 2 = 4. No amount of evolution or your thinking can change that equation, but you can believe 2 + 2 = 3. And therefore you will create an experience of always coming up short, right? So you can believe you're not enough. It's not true. You are an infinite individualized expression of all the power and the presence and the love and the life that exists, but you can believe it, and it's done unto you as you believe. So we
So
don't
does that
perceive
does that
life.
mean does that mean that if also you're in a really positive place and you of
Yeah.
course what I need is going to be there for me. It's just the way life works, that kind of a belief
Yes.
system.
Yes.
That's still not necessarily what's going on, but it's our experience of what's going on.
Correct. If you really have a confident, empowered sense of self-worth and all of that, you absolutely will. Again, we don't perceive life as it is. We perceive life as we are through the filters of our own concepts, beliefs, stories, etc. Now, that doesn't always mean just because you're confident and you believe everything's going to work out in a way that you think it should. But it's certainly a start, right? There's lots of people that are arrogantly confident, and eventually that comes back at them because where it's coming from isn't real confidence. It's actually coming, the arrogance is a coping mechanism, the self-righteousness is a coping mechanism. So, but when there's a real sense of peace, a real sense of I am enough, I have enough, then you are now tuned into station KRICH, K-Rich, instead of KLACK, KLAC. So that's the difference.
So if we are looking at this and trying to get to the point that you're saying where we can tune into the station, and yet at the same time we're saying no self-improvement here.
Right.
Don't we
The end of
still have a
self-improvement
lot
is what I call it. Yeah.
don't we still have a lot of unburying to do of all the conditioning and belief systems and damage in order to get to that place where we can open up and resonate?
Absolutely. And I call the law of emergence the end of self-improvement, because when you know the true nature of the self, you realize you cannot improve upon it. Again, the acorn is not an inadequate oak tree. It's a perfect acorn. But the oak is the potential when the conditions are right. So it's not improving itself, but there is a need to come into greater and greater alignment or harmony or agreement with that potential. It's a self actualization, it's a self realization, but it's not a self improvement. And it's not just semantics, because where you're coming from and where you start has everything to do with where you end up. If you
Well,
start, I'm not enough
it's
and I'm broken, you end up with I'm not enough and I'm broken.
it's not self-improvement, but boy, it's really a fine line there in conceptualizing what it
Yeah.
is we need to do. So how can you tell
Yes.
when you're on the self-improvement bandwagon or when you're on the emergence wagon?
It's a great question. And there's an axiom, a metaphysical axiom: to he or she who is wrong in mind, they can do all the right things, it's still going to turn out wrong. But to he or she who is right in mind, they can even do the wrong things and it will turn out right. So we're not on our way to something better, we're coming from it. The ray of the sun is coming from the sun. It's not on its way to the sun. The wave is coming from the ocean. It's not on its way to the ocean. So we have to focus more on, it's like, hey, where you coming from, man? We have to focus more on where we're coming from. And as we become more sensitive to that, when I go to make that call or send that email or check in on that thing or pound the pavement, I become aware of, where am I coming from? Am I coming from, I don't have enough? What if it doesn't work? I'm not enough. Why? Why me? If I'm coming from that constricted place in my body, or a sense of there's not enough, I'm not enough, life's not enough, danger, danger, well, that's where I know I need to stop. That I've fallen into the quicksand of a misperception of who I am. And I'm now going to add energy to that belief. Even if I'm taking all these positive actions, I'm actually taking them. The unconscious prayer is, I'm not enough, but if I just do more, I'll be enough. And now I'm building that. It's like holding a beach ball underwater. And I might short term will myself into a bigger paycheck, but I'm eventually just going to be broke at a higher income bracket. And
Or
so,
broken inside.
and well,
Um,
yeah, whatever, right? I'm
you,
going to ultimately get in a new relationship with all that effort and end up in the same arguments or worse, because where I'm coming from is I'm not enough, but I could just get somebody to love me or like me or hire me. I will be enough, but soon I will be right back in the same play. Same
but
story, different day.
as you say, these messages can be very subliminal. We might
Yes,
not even be aware of them. So how do we
yes.
get at them?
Absolutely. And the first thing is there's all kinds of clues to what we believe. First of all, if you want to know what you believe and what you value, look at your credit cards, your conversations, your bank statement, and your calendar. Because what all those things are filled with is telling you what you really value. And it's probably not what you think. So that's one of the first things to understand. What do I really believe? Let me listen to myself for a week and notice what comes out of my mouth. I'm like, wow, I'm pretty dark. I've got some gallows humor going on there. I'm really complaining a lot. I really believe the world's against me. So you can listen. And then the second thing is you don't have to so much worry about figuring out what's inside you, because it will come to the surface, especially as you put all of your attention or most of it on what do I really, really, really want? What do I really want to create? Who do I really want to be? Not what do I think I should or could or have to be or do, but if I could truly be all that I want and create and make the difference and the impact and all of that, and you start to endeavor to live and move in that direction, what's going to come up very quickly is all of the reasons why you can't, why you shouldn't, why you're not enough, why the world, why your mom and dad, it's because of dad, because of teacher, because of that's going to come right to the surface, right? There's a saying, love casts out all fear. When you focus your attention on love and on living and on going for it, it's like a roto-rooter of the soul. It's going to bring up everything that is in the way, and now you know where the lies and the misperceptions are, and how to begin to work on that.
So let me see if I've got this right. When we set our intent to come from a place of emergence in the process of trying to create or step into the world we want to be in, the life we want to live, um, just the act of setting that intention starts to push to the surface all the stuff
Yes.
that stands in the way of it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I love how you're simplifying it, and it is simple, but it's not like you said, it can be very difficult, and it's difficult to work through we already live in a matrix, the matrix of our mind. And as I said, we're not seeing the world as it is. We're seeing it through the filters of our perception. Like in Plato's allegory of the cave, we're looking at shadows on the cave wall and thinking that's reality. So it can be very difficult because a lot of feelings can come up, and they've had a millennia to get really, really good and subtle at tricking you into thinking this is true. So you start doing it and you think, okay, I know what I want. He just said, just know what you want and set that intention. And all of a sudden you're feeling tired, you get sick, your car breaks down, or, whatever.
And that's about the
And
time people say, oh, I guess I'm not supposed to have it.
there you go. There you go. Thank you for saying that. Yes, exactly. It must not be, it's in this lifetime, or it's my karma, or it's just, if it's not in flow, it means it's not meant to be. I'm like, have you ever studied any great individual throughout history? If they stopped when it wasn't in flow, we would be still living in caveman time, cavewoman times. So yes, exactly. So it starts to bring up, but if you slow it down and you get curious about everything that comes up, like the thought comes up, I guess I'm not meant to be, and it's so familiar, and you go, wait a second, where have I heard that before? I've been saying that to myself for a long time. That's interesting. And you start to just step back a little bit and engage what's called metacognition, which is our ability to think about what we're thinking about, which, as far as we know, we're the only animal creature that has that ability. You can now witness the content of your consciousness and start to notice, oh, and then you'll fall asleep for a minute and you wake back up. Oh, that almost got me, I almost believe that. And is it live or is it Memorex? You start to just and write it down and really start writing down all the dialogue, all the self-talk, all the story. And you'll start to see there is a tape running, there is a story running, and it's been running ever since you were a child.
Hmm.
And it's
Well,
just recapitulating itself over and over again.
it's that magic moment again, Derek. We're going to have to take another station break. Derek and I will be right back to continue our discussion, so you stay right there. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Hi there. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. Our guest this hour is Derek Rydall. His website, derekrydall.com. Derek, a thing has occurred to me as we were talking about this. We were talking about metacognition, if I said that right. And
Yeah.
but what
Just
about
means above. Yeah.
what about when we're in an environment where a lot of other people have very strong belief systems in a particular direction? So, like a cult mentality. Does that impact what we're actually messaging ourselves, even if it's subliminal or not verbal?
Well, yes, we're born into a culture, an environment. There's thought viruses everywhere. And when we're born into a family, we catch some of the viruses of that family thought lineage and that culture, and perhaps our gender or our sexual orientation. All of those different categories come with their own baggage of beliefs. And so part of the journey is we're coming with all this preloaded stuff. And in an environment where individuals or institutions have a particular intensity or density of belief, if we are not immunized and inoculated because we have a stronger spiritual or psychic immune system, we're going to be susceptible to those beliefs. And so, yes, that's true. And that's why everybody should daily be getting immunized and inoculated with their own, telling themselves the truth they want to believe and anchoring themselves in this work before you go out in the world, before you open up your iPhone, before you turn on any media. We should be, yes, I'm shitting on you, I'm sorry, but we should be doing the work to build up our own knowing, right?
So,
When we,
so,
yeah, go ahead.
so how can we tell as we're just starting to dig into this? It sounds like one big modern mess that we're getting into in order to find a place of emergence.
Yeah.
How can we tell what's coming from within and what's been imposed from without?
Yeah, it's literally the most classic question. How do I know this is my spirit talking or my ego, or that kind of idea? And again, mostly initially we cannot tell except in hindsight. Because people ask, how do I know, is this guidance or my ego talking? It's another way of saying that, right? And what all we can do is our best guess. Now what happens is there is a resonance that your guidance has for you. And first of all, it tends to feel there's an expansion to it. Even if there's a constriction on top of it, there's a little part inside of you that's like, oh, this is the way. This is my yes. There's a little yes there. And sometimes it's the still small voice, and other times it's booming. But there is something that we just learned to push down because society told us you're wrong, it's not okay, you're weird, whatever. And we haven't learned to trust it. So as we begin to rediscover that voice, that inner evolutionary impulse, which is your yes, your desire. Desire means of the sire, of the father, of the creative impulse. You have to act on it. And then you notice, how do things unfold? Do things open more? Do they close more? And then when you start to notice things working, you in retrospect begin to go, oh, okay, so now I'm starting to know what that guidance feels like. And over time, and sometimes quickly, if you practice that, you start to really be able to tell the difference between this is just my coping or codependence, this is just my fear or safety or preservation, but this is my emerging impulse. This is life trying to flow through me. This is more of me trying to unfold. Nice try, world. I don't believe you. I'm not buying it.
I'm not buying it.
I'm gonna trust myself.
So you used a word that's been used a lot. So I'd like you to define it as you mean it here. Ego. What exactly is ego?
Yeah, the way I think of ego, people give ego a negative connotation,
Hmm.
and it certainly can have one. The way I look at ego is just a set of programs or a program. It's an identity machine. And as we're evolving, we have to individuate and individualize. This is true with a child, and this is true in the history of the evolution of humanity. There's an individuation so that I know that I'm separate from you physically. I'm separate from that cliff so I don't just walk off it. I'm separate from that saber-toothed cat so I don't go here, kitty, kitty, and I'm dead. Right. So there's a degree of a need to be able to differentiate and we create an identity, and then we also create a map of reality. It's like a system software in your computer. Without that system software, your computer wouldn't be able to run any programs in that dimension called computer land. And so, so that's not the problem. The problem is that as we're evolving and building that system software to run in 3D, because we're not 3D, we're in this quantum field of infinite potentiality. We have to be able to operate and navigate in the dimension of 3D. What happens is we overly identify with it. We fall asleep and believe, I am this body, I am this program, this map of reality. And we are actually separate beings with separate minds and lives. And now we're asleep in the matrix. And we create all these coping mechanisms in the Tower of Babel to survive. And so the awakening isn't getting rid of the ego, it's awakening to an identity that is bigger or beyond the ego. Hence, metacognition is going above and beyond what our mind and brain is telling us, and realizing there is an I am, a witness that I'm not in my mind, that my mind and my brain and my body is in me. It's in my consciousness. It's in the field of my awareness. I'm bigger than that.
You know,
That's the beginning of freedom.
it occurs to me that while we're digging our way through all the things that we are not in order to resonate with what we are so we can emerge, there is probably a lot of fear involved as a result of all this programming. What if I lose my ego and I don't have an identity. I don't have any value. What's going to emerge from in there? I think
Yeah,
there might be a lot of fear. Would you speak to that
absolutely.
and how we deal with it?
It's the ultimate fear. And this is why Jesus said, if you try to save your life, you'll lose it. But if you're willing to lose your life, you'll find it. And that's what all the great teachers taught. And so, yes, there's tremendous fear because it's a coping mechanism designed to make sure we stay within the confines of that map of reality. Because again, from an evolutionary standpoint, if we just ran around and didn't have any sense of separation or didn't pay attention to our built-in maps and identities, we wouldn't have survived. We wouldn't have made it. So it created like fortress walls, like perimeters. If you go past here, the alarm bells go off, and it brings up fear and it brings up doubt. And it's like the Truman Show. If he tried to go on a boat or go into the forest, he has all this fear and anxiety, this learned helplessness. Why? Because they trained and conditioned him so he would not find out there's this parameters, and then he would leave the show and be in a whole new world. So that was designed for our survival. But now for our evolution, we have to know how to go beyond it. And here's the cool thing. When you understand that, fear is a messenger. It's telling you you're believing a lie, a limitation. And when you sit with it, it will tell you the story that is not true. There's not enough to go around. I'm not enough. And then that lie is pointing to a higher or deeper truth, which you are being called to apprentice under. So fear now is our ally. Oh, thanks, fear. I'm believing a lie. What's the deeper truth I'm supposed to now apprentice under? Meaning, what's the greater idea that's trying to emerge in me? There's not enough. Oh, that means there's more than enough. There's more than enough is trying to emerge. This belief in more than enough, this person who knows there's more than enough. Now I'm going to take all of my attention and put it on developing alignment with more than enough. I'm not going to,
So
fear is giving me the message. Now I'm going to apprentice.
so if we're as we're working with this, um, and we start to set our intent. Okay, so that all that wonderful stuff bubbles up to be cleared to reach our intent.
Mhm.
But very often, don't we not really know what we want? And what we're doing is creating a solution for feared lack versus aligning with what we really want.
Yeah, again, you're bringing up all the greatest hits. Of course, you've been doing this long enough. It's one of the other greatest things. If you interview 100 people, one of them maybe knows kind of sort of what they want. It's really striking. Again, we haven't been conditioned to believe that it's okay to know what we want. When we're a child and we want everything, we want a lot. That's the right place to start. And we're told very quickly, that's not okay, and all that stuff. So we've been conditioned out of it. So we have to start again in most cases by taking time to get to know what we really, really want. And that's what I said before. It's not what you think you should have or should be or should do, or even what you think you could do or be. Those are all based on fear and your old map of reality. You want to get down to, but what do I really, really, really put three reallys behind it at least? What do I really, really, really want? Who do I really, really, really want to be?
Is
And
that
and
a moving
and
target,
sit with
though,
it every
Derek?
day. Go ahead.
Is it a moving target?
It's not a moving target in truth, but it can feel like a moving target in the process. Meaning, again, the acorn is an oak tree. If the acorn had self-consciousness, it might look out at the forest and go, those apple trees are really looking good and people love apples. I want to be an apple tree, right? And it would really be a bad apple. But so that happens to us because we've not been conditioned to do what the Oracle of Delphi said, which is know thyself. There's only two master strokes: know thyself and to thine own self be true. Wax on, wax off, right? But we've been conditioned not to know ourselves, but to know, who do I need to be so that mommy and daddy love me and feed me and I'm safe and I don't get hurt and I don't die. So the first step is we got to get back to knowing ourselves.
And what I find interesting is those very decisions were made by a child, from what you're saying. The
Correct.
child that needed to figure out how to survive.
Correct. It's made by this survival mechanism, which is an evolutionary fractal. It's just repeating evolution. If you watch the child development, a child doesn't know it's separate at first, and then eventually it realizes it's separate from mommy. And you go through like the terrible twos and the separation anxiety and all that kind of stuff. So we just recapitulate evolution as a child, and that mechanism that was designed to make sure the species survives is the same mechanism. It's mapping out our terrain. What's this strange planet I've landed on? How do I survive and get my needs met? And then it creates a map, it creates a survival kit, and then it moves on and lives within that confines. And now
Well,
we're learning to transcend it and unravel it again.
so we built this critter. Now we have to figure out how to unbuild it, and yet it
Yeah,
probably still has some value. So
exactly.
on the other
Exactly.
side of this station break, I'd like to get into that a little bit. Please
You
stay
got it.
with us as Derek and I continue to explore accessing abundance. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Welcome back. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. This hour, our expert guest is Derek Rydall. His website, derekrydall.com. Derek, we were talking about how we spend the first part of our lives building this matrix around us so that we can function in 3D reality here on the planet.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
then as we come to a time where we want to evolve and let the truth of us emerge even into that reality, there's some
Yeah.
dismantling required. However, my question to you is, do we really dismantle it, or do we change our relationship to it? Isn't it the operating system by which we relate to this world?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a little bit of both. There's one, we've talked about in psychology the core wound, right? And a core wound is when we have to believe a lie about ourselves, like a lie against our very soul, like I must not be enough. There must not be enough, because if I believe there's enough in an environment where there's not, I'm going to be in trouble. So we have to believe a lie. That's the wound. But it's also a core initiation, because as we compensate for that, for example, it's not okay to want what I want. I need to be more focused on what mom wants, right? And so now we develop skills of acuity and sensitivity. So we call that codependence, but also we actually become really good at something. We develop we develop one whole side of ourselves, in that case, more of the feminine, receptivity, sensitivity, care. But now we grow up and we're lopsided. The masculine part of us, the selfishness, that other side of the circuit, we just learn selflessness in this example, which is great because we're pushing against selfishness. We're pushing against the opposite to not be. There's something that we can't be or we're going to be in danger. But so it's like resistance training, which is weightlifting. All of our life, we're building this opposite muscle. In this case, we're very selfless, we're very caring, we're very giving. But at a certain point, we get resentful, we get burned out, we're not meeting our own needs, and we need to focus more on selfish and caring for ourselves. But we haven't developed that. But now we've got the feminine developed. And now we move to, as we understand, as we say, I want a bigger life, I want more. In order to have the more, we're going to have to develop, in this example, the selfishness, the self-awareness.
Isn't that manipulating the operating system, though? It's not who we are, but you're manipulating the operating system that you work into the world through.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say manipulating, although manipulation itself is not a bad word. That's what a chiropractor does when it adjusts your spine. It's literally manipulating. So reorganizing, reorienting is what we have to do. I'm not just this. Let me, and there's more to me here. And let me add more pieces to this. Let me cultivate more of the potential that is in me. Let me go to the gym and not just work out my biceps. Let me work out my core as well. So you could say that's a form of manipulation, but it's really just an expanded form of development. There's parts of us that are underdeveloped. There's parts of us that are latent, that are buried, and even worse, that we believe are bad or unsafe, or that they're going to hurt us, or we're going to lose something if we in fact begin to develop those parts.
Those parts seem still to me to be like the interface between us and the world we're in right now. Aren't who we really are, what's really trying to emerge, even a layer deeper than that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. We think we're just this one character, we're this person who makes it all about everybody else and not about ourselves. So that's our identity. That's the story we've been living in. And now there's another character we're going to develop and become the person who makes it more about themselves and not about everybody else. And that starts to form. But what's underneath all of that is the whole perfect idea or pattern of an integrated being that has always been true even before we were in our mother's womb. So that was always there. That's the pattern in the seed. And we only created partial conditions for its emergence. And now we're cultivating more of the conditions, and now more of our wholeness, more of our power, more of our potential or purpose begins to emerge. It looks like we're working on parts, but what we're doing is creating more of the condition for the greater whole that is underneath that to emerge.
So what does that look like in operation? Does it look like, okay, here we are just in our beingness, and then in interfacing with the world, whether we're giving or whether we're more self-interested at any given moment has to do with what's appropriate in the moment based our true expression versus our identity?
Well, I mean, there's a lot there to try to unpack. I would make it maybe put a little more simply is we're never here. You say interfacing with the world. You've said that a few times. And I look at it more like we're not really in the world is in our consciousness. Again, we're perceiving ourself. Wherever you go, there you are. So you're not really interfacing with a world. You're interfacing with all of your concepts and perceptions of reality. So you're really always doing the work on yourself and within yourself. The only place you have to win the argument, win the war, is within you, right? And so, Jesus said, love your enemy, and the enemy is in your own household. It's all within us. And so the world, as Shakespeare called it, is like a mirror or the play. And we are looking to see what's triggering us, what's pushing us, what's pulling us. And that's giving us evidence, not of what's out there, but of what's in here. So we're not trying to save the world. We're not trying to fix the world. We're trying to serve more fully what is emerging, right? Just like in nature, where things are coming at us, but we're using that as information to go, what's emerging in me, to get clearer and clearer in what's emerging in us. And, we become trigger happy, so that when the trigger happens, we're like, oh my God, I'm about to grow. I'm about to learn something about myself, rather than, why is the world doing this to me?
Exactly. Yeah, back to that, what bubbles forth. You can either
Exactly.
be a victim of it or use it as a tool
Exactly.
for emergence. So
Exactly.
it's the time.
Self-awareness.
It's the time right now where I have to ask you, Derek, what is your mission?
Well, my mission has been for decades to awaken, the word just awaken. And the longer version of that is to awaken individuals to their true identity and help them fulfill their destiny, so that together we can create a world that works for the highest good of all. So to put it even more simply, like a gardener of the garden of life, to help each individual discover what is their unique divine seed planted in the soil of their soul, and help them to create the right conditions for it to grow, to flourish, and to flower. And I will say that there's another word for that activity of helping a seed flourish and flower, and it's called love.
Mm,
And so to
That's
love, I'm a love evolutionary, help people evolve and have a revolution in love.
very well put. Which also opens up the question is, how do you see implementing these principles as individuals? How do you see it changing or affecting the world at large?
I see it as everything, because again, the world that we call the world is the outpicturing of all of our collective and individual beliefs about the world. And most of those beliefs are based on a foundational lie of separation, a foundational lie of, I'm separate from everything and everyone, and there's not enough to go around. And when we understand the source of all creation is within us, and each individual, as I say, you need to drink from the fountain of you, and then you will know immortal life. When we learn to drink from the fountain of within ourselves and realize, I have everything I need, I brought it all with me, I don't need to take it or get it from anybody, I need to flower and flourish and pour forth this divine inheritance within me. Now, if everybody was plugged back into their inner source, and they were just here to love and serve and shine and share and collaborate, that's a very different paradigm. And I would dare say that is a truer and more accurate description of reality. And that's not just from my mouth, that's from all the great teachers throughout history.
Well, we're getting close to the end of the show here, but given the instability and problems that we are now faced with versus where we're
Yes.
like to go, um, what's the best way for us to obtain our goals and dreams? Where's the best place to start?
Well, I think the very best first place is, it says in Proverbs, where there is no vision, the people perish. And so what the problem is most of us have become problem solvers instead of vision holders. And we want to, instead of being pushed by the pain, we need to start getting pulled by a bigger vision, right? So asking and discovering, what do I truly want? What am I truly made of and made for? What am I really here for? Who am I? As the number one priority. The problem is most people know more about their smartphone than they do about themselves, which means their phone is smart and they are stupid. And when something knows more about you than you do, guess who's using who? You're not using your phone anymore, kids. The phone is using you. So we need to know more about ourselves than we know about anything else. And when that happens, as that flip happens, emergence begins to take place. We know what we want, the reticular activating system kicks in, we see what we need, and we have the courage and the energy and the guidance to go for
Well, again, we're just about out of time, but here's another good question for you.
it.
How do you see, we've been in a time of crisis. I think we're
Yes,
probably making history right now just because of
yes.
all the things that have gone
And we
on.
ain't seen nothing yet, folks, but
Thanks. Yeah,
continue.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Hate to be the
Yeah,
bearer of bad, sad tidings, but how do you see crisis as serving us as individuals and as a whole to
yes.
go into this place of emergence?
Well, 100%. The crisis cracks you open if you are willing, like the forest fire that the jack pine needs. The forest fire melts the serotinous glue, opens up the seed pods, releases the progeny, burns the old dead wood in the canopy, opens it up for more sun, fertilizes the soil. I mean, it does so many good things. And so if we understand that our challenges, our crises, and our triggers are not happening to us, but for us, and our chronic crises are showing us that we're trying to survive in a world idea, a world view that is too small for us now, that there's a larger idea that's trying to emerge and we're not letting it, and it's producing what we call a crisis. But the meaning of that crisis is not you're bad or you're doomed. It's wake up. There's more of you trying to come forth. Have the courage to discover what it is. Say yes to your yes and go for it. Live your purpose.
Well, unfortunately, we are out of time. Derek, thank you so
Darn
much
it.
for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. It's been my honor and my pleasure.
Our guest this hour has been Derek Rydall, author of Emergence, 7 Steps for Radical Life Change, and The Abundance Project. His website, derekrydall.com. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. For more information or to enjoy past archived episodes, visit us at www.missionevolution.org. Please be sure to join us right here next time as this mission continues, bringing information, resources, and support to our rapidly evolving world.